Picture this. You're standing on the edge of a cliff, your heart's pounding in your chest, and below you, the ground drops away for thousands of feet. The wind is howling in your ears, and you take one last deep breath, check your gear, and then without a second thought, you leap. The world falls away in a blur as gravity does its thing, and that's when you pull the cord and the parachute opens, and for one brief moment you're soaring like a bird, as free as can be. This sport isn't for everyone, it's dangerous, extreme, and it's unlike anything else. But for the few who dare, it's not only a rush, it's an absolute way of life. Welcome back to Score Insights TV and the insane business of base jumping. Now, first things first, what exactly is base jumping? Well, it's simple, really. Base stands for building, antenna, span, like a bridge, and earth, being cliffs, mountains, or whatever. These are four main objects from which base jumpers will leap. And unlike regular skydiving, where you jump out of a plane that's already 10,000 feet in the air, base jumpers are usually leap from much lower altitudes, anywhere from 100 to 3,000 feet, and they don't use parachutes to slow them down. They use something called a base rig, which is specially designed to open quickly. It sounds crazy, right? But it's not only about the thrill, it's also a crazy industry itself. People are actually paying to watch and participate, and some athletes are even making serious money base jumping. But before we get into that part, let's talk about some of the names. When you think of base jumping, there are a few names that should pop out. These athletes are legends in the sport, and they've helped to turn base jumping into a global phenomenon. First, we have Felix Baumgartner. You probably know him from his Red Bull Stratus jump in 2012, where he jumped from the edge of space. That's right, 128,000 feet up. It's insane, but he began his career with base jumping. And Felix is a true pioneer of extreme sports who took base jumping to a whole new level with his record-breaking jump. And yes, he did make millions of dollars doing it, all thanks to Red Bull and his other sponsors. Then there's Dean Potter, known for his daring and no parachute wingsuit jumps. Unfortunately, though, this would come back to bite him, as he tragically passed away in 2015 during a jump in Yosemite, but he's well remembered as being one of the sport's most fearless and influential athletes, and his stunts pushed the limits of what people thought was possible. And then, let's not forget Jeb Corliss. He's famous for jumping off of cliffs and, yes, flying in a wingsuit, and he's one of the most recognizable faces in the base jumping community. He's known for making some of the most dangerous jumps in the world, but what many people don't know is that he's also a business guy. He's worked with major brands like Red Bull, GoPro, and even had his own gear line, and we all know that that's where the money comes in. But here's the thing. Base jumping isn't exactly a mainstream sport like basketball or football, but it is definitely growing, which leaves the question of how do these athletes make their money? 1. Sponsorships. This is where the big bucks roll in. The top base jumpers will partner with major brands like Red Bull, GoPro, and even clothing companies. The sponsors will pay big money for the athletes to wear their logos and use their gear, and of course, to create content. A great example is Jeb Corliss. He's been sponsored by Red Bull for years, and his stunts have brought in millions of views. For these companies, it's the perfect way to get brand exposure to an audience that loves extreme sports. 2. Media deals. Base jumpers don't only jump off of cliffs and hope that someone catches it on camera. They'll work with a film crew and photographers and media professionals in order to capture every moment. These moments are then turned into documentaries, YouTube videos, and even commercials. And you have to think about those insane GoPro videos that you've seen. That's money in the bank for those jumpers, and sometimes they even sell the footage to media outlets or streaming services. 3. Paid jumps. Some athletes will run their own skydiving schools or base jumping tours, and they charge people who want to have the same experience jumping off a cliff or a bridge for the first time. These so-called tours will often include a trained instructor who guides them through the process. And sure, it is dangerous, but for the person who's paying, it's a once-in-a-lifetime experience and opportunity. 4. Merchandise and gear. When you're a well-known base jumper, you can start selling your own gear, like custom rigs and wingsuits, helmets, even t-shirts, and some jumpers like Jeb Corliss have designed their own line of products. That's where they can make a lot of money outside of the jumps themselves. But here's the thing, not every base jumper is going to make big money. It is a dangerous sport, and only the top athletes can cash in on sponsorships, media deals, and product sales. But even if you're not at the top, there is still money to be made in other ways, such as teaching and selling footage, or even creating content. Now let's talk about the not-so-glamorous side of the sport, the risk. This sport is absolutely dangerous, there's no doubt about that. In fact, base jumping is one of the most dangerous extreme sports that's out there. The fatality rate, well, it's much higher than skydiving. Statistically, about 1 in 2,300 jumps will result in a death, and that's a risk that most people are not willing to take. But for those of them who are, the rewards can be massive, not only in terms of money, but in glory, fame, and of course the thrill. But here's the question. Would you jump off of a cliff for $100,000? What about $1 million? Maybe you'd need a bit more convincing, right? But for the elite base jumpers, the risk is what's worth it. It's kind of like playing poker with your life, except instead of chips, you're betting your future on whether or not your parachute's going to open in time. And guess what? Some of these jumpers are betting big. Felix Baumgartner, he was reportedly paid around $20 million by Red Bull for his Stratos jump. That's a whole lot of money to jump out of space and risk your life. But for him, it was well worth it because his jump set a brand new world record and it made him a household name.
Good morning, everybody.
But not everyone's getting paid like that. For most of the base jumpers, it becomes a combination of sponsorships, media, and smaller gigs. But still, the potential for a great lifestyle is there if you're at the top. So then, what's next for the sport of base jumping? While the sport is definitely growing, thanks to social media, GoPro videos, and YouTube, more people are tuning in each and every day. We're seeing more people getting interested in extreme sports and looking for that next big thrill, and as technology improves, the hope is that base jumping will become safer. New parachutes, better training programs, and advancements in wingsuit design are making jumps a little less risky. But will it ever become mainstream? Well, honestly, probably not. Base jumping will always be a niche sport for the fearless, but that's what makes it exciting as well. The next Felix Baumgartner might just be out there right now, training for their moment in the spotlight. And who knows, maybe one day you will be the one jumping off the edge of space. So what do you think? Would you risk it all for the thrill of base jumping, or is it a hard pass for you? Let me know in the comments down below, and if you enjoyed this deep dive into the crazy world of base jumping, don't forget to like the video, share it with a friend, and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.